Thank you again for joining us, everyone. Welcome back. I am here joined by new co-caster Dragonites, who doesn't have anything to say at the moment, but I've got some things to say. It's going to be Jose Escamilla versus Ellie Homen, and it is going to be a very fun matchup because we've got one of the more iconic teams, one of my personal favorite teams on Jose's side. It is the Hisui Arcanine Fluttermane Para Flinch, as I've kind of called it, because it's got Thunder Wave and Rock Slide. Ellie going for a offensive rain team, and there are the teams on the screen now. You're going to see Jose on the left with that Ogerpon, Wellspring, Raging Bolt, Golden Go, Fluttermane, Hisui Arcanine, and Landorus Incarnate. On the right is Ellie with Landorus Incarnate, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Chenpao, Amoonguss, Tornadus Incarnate, and Golden Go. So it is a, as you can see, it's kind of a few mirrors here. We have both Golden Goes, we have both Tornadus Incarnates, and that's about where it ends. Very rain-oriented team on Ellie's side. You do have manual Rain Dance from that Tornadus. You have offensive pressure with Chenpao and Urshifu Rapid Strike. That combo is just dangerous into a lot. A little scary because you don't have fire coverage, but it shows that you have rain mode as your primary mode here. This Golden Go on both sides, actually, are Metal Coat, Nasty Plot, Terra Water on Jose's side, Terra Fairy on Ellie's, and that kind of just works with the team a bit better. Jose's side doesn't necessarily need some more Fairy types on the field because you do have a Fluttermane. You've got Fairy Dragon Steel combo as well with the Raging Bolt, Golden Go, and Fluttermane. This team did just win the Victory Road Tournament very recently. It's popped up a bunch. Some Fluttermanes have been opting to go for bold max defense, essentially. Some have gone max speed in an attempt to speed creep other Fluttermanes. So it's a bit of a weird situation right now where this team is a fantastic team, but you do have to choose your battles and your speed tiers and kind of hope you win, which is really interesting. If you don't run into a mirror, though, it is very, very solid into most of the opposing Pokemon, so balance is really good into. We're going to see if it's good into rain, though, in a minute. Leading is going to be Ellie with that Tornadus and Landorus, the double GD combo I've been talking about all day. It's finally on the screen. Well, we see a communication error pop up. We're going to try this again, but it was Ogerpon Water and Fluttermane on Jose's side. I will say, even if there's a communication error, it's all good. We are going to just restart the match. As if nothing had happened. We will allow players here to change their leads if they want. That is the standard. They can agree to lead the same or agree to lead different and mix it up. That is just the standard protocol, but we're going to see them get back into the match. But these are two players who have popped up regularly. Obviously, we've seen Ellie relatively recently on stream. Jose, with this team, I mean, like, he's showcasing how this team has just kind of popped off after Victory Road. It is everywhere at the moment, and I think it has got a lot of eyes on it, and for good reason. You have so many fun pieces on that team. You have the the Arcanine, the Hisui Arcanine, you have the Landorus, which is just really fun to click buttons with that, especially if you are clicking Earth Power or Substitute or Sandsear Storm, depending on what set you play. Fluttermane with Thunder Wave also just incredibly satisfying to get some Thunder Waves off and slow things down. Now the match is restarting, and we're going to see the same lead on Ellie's side, that is the Landorus and the Tornadus, and we're going to see the same lead on Jose's side. So, as if nothing happened, and this time there's no disconnection, so we are off and running. Fluttermane going to activate that booster, photosynthesis boost from Booster Energy. It is speed, of course it is. This is a very support-heavy Fluttermane. Threat right away. From Ellie's side to Jose's side, because you do have both Sludge Bomb and Bleak Wind Storm. That threatens the Ogerpon, especially if it goes Follow Me. Icy Wind's also very, very good here, though. This Tornadus is Cobra Coke, so it won't drop in speed. It's guaranteed to get something off as well, even if it cooks Bleak Wind. We're going to see the Terra right away on Ogerpon Wellspring Storm here. That is going to go into Water type as well as get the special defense boost. So that is going to protect against any Sludge Bombs, going to protect against Bleak Wind Storm, Earth Power, and in good fashion. And that's actually one thing I was a little worried about looking at Ellie's team, is it does not have much that it can do against that Terra Ogerpon, because you do not have any move that are super effective against water. We are going to see Terra on Ellie's Tornadus, or Landorus, and the Tornadus go for Tailwind. Double G, which will work for you. We're going to see Landorus go straight for that Earth Power, which is really, really nice. Icy Wind is going to get blocked pretty heavily. Tornadus is going to take a few more points of damage, but that Steel Terra on Landorus means it doesn't really get affected all that much. And Ivy Cudgel partnering into it is going to do a lot, even through the Terra Steel. but not quite a knockout, which is kind of crucial here. Got a pretty free switch in if you're Ellie. I don't think you really want your Landorus to go down here. Tornado's not bad to just go right away for Bleak Wind. I think you could taunt the Flutter Mane if you are scared of Thunderwave. You could taunt the Ogerpon if you're scared of Follow Me, but I think Bleak Wind is probably going to be your best bet, especially because you really need to save the Tornadus. You could go for Protect on Tornadus as well, but you really need to save the Tornadus to just knock out what could be in the back. Protect is totally fine, but you have so many things on Jose's side that are weak to ground. Golden Go, Raging Bolt, and the Hisui Arcanine, and all of them cannot Terra. Bleak Wind Storm there, going to connect with the Flutter Mane, and the Flutter does get the Thunder Wave off on Tornadus, effectively acting as a double Icy Wind right away. Flutter Mane now fastest thing on the field, despite the Tailwind on Ellie's side. And an Ivy Cudgel means that Bleak Wind Storm did not hit the opposing Ogerpon. Doesn't necessarily matter because it's not the one you really need. The chip damage is nice. But again, I think you got to swap here, and looking at what we have on Ellie's side, this is a pretty decent Amoonguss switch in. There is a little bit of a trend going on with Amoonguss, which is Mental Herb Amoonguss, specifically so you can switch into a potential taunt. So I like that idea, especially, but we're going to see the Landers just go down. I'm a bit surprised at that, to be honest. We didn't see the switch into Amoonguss because there's nothing besides Icy Word that's super effective. Every other move is resistant. So I'm surprised we didn't see that swap in there. But we are going to see the Tornadus possibly go first. No, it is a bulky Tornadus, and we kind of could have judged that with how much damage it took from Icy Wind. So that means it's gonna survive because of the bulk, just to get full paralyzed, and that means that was a free turn for Jose there to just do what he needed and get rid of the threats on Ellie's side. Yeah, Amoonguss is kind of necessary here. Good news is because the Ogerpon has Terra'd, it is now susceptible to Sport. Bad news is Flutter Mane has Taunt, so you can't really do all that much. Kind of have to go for the Sludge Bomb with Flutter Mane here. There's not much else you can do. But then you do just leave yourself susceptible to so much. You could also go for the Follow Me and swap into your Urshifu, but because it is Close Scarf and there is a Golden Go in the back and a Flutter Mane on the field, you don't really want to lock in a Close on that. It's kind of annoying. Nice taunt there. I believe we're going to see... Yeah, so the taunt means that Flutter Mane can't taunt, meaning that this Amoonguss is free to go for whatever. Ivy Cudgel, I think, means we are going to see the removal here of that Tornadus. And I think Spore is kind of just the best bet here. Specifically Spore into the Ogerpon, which is what we see. But here's the rough thing. This Urshifu is in the back. It can't log into close combat, because if you log into close combat, you lose. You just automatically lose for Ellie, because Golden Go cannot get touched by close combat and cannot get touched by Sludge Bomb, which are the two remaining offensive moves on Ellie's side. So you have to right now lock into Surging Strikes or U-turn, but I wouldn't really recommend that. And you also have to deal with the threat of the Raging Bolt. So it's a really rough situation, but I think right now, if you are Ellie, you're just thinking, oh man, what do I do? Because you also are threatened by the Moonblast from Flutter Mane. But I think right now, I personally would go Surging Strikes, Rage Powder, and just kind of try and negate the damage there. But again, you're really in a rough spot because you have the Raging Bolt in the back, which is going to take a lot of damage. And I think we see that swap in here because it's just really good, and it forces the Amoonguss to keep going for Thunder Wave, or Rage Powders, because if not, you're in a rough spot. And the Icy Wind is also really, really useful here because it puts the positioning to where after the -1, this, if with most of these Ogerpons are, I was talking about the close combat. Most of the Ogerpons are faster, max speed, because of that Ivy Cudgel, right? It's just the right. It's going to be able to outspeed this Urshifu now, and die. It still will get hit by Rage Powder because of the Terra, but still. At this point, it's basically over though. If you are Ellie, your only attacking move on this Golden Go, and I kid you not, is Struggle. Because you cannot hit it with close combat, cannot hit it with Sludge Bomb. And that was why people call it the Golden Goat. I don't know if anyone's saying that for real. But Golden Goat coming on in. Rage Powder does not matter at this point. You want to go for Moonblast? Go for Moonblast. Want to stay asleep? Stay asleep. It just doesn't matter. If you're Ellie right now, you should really... I would play out, though. As you can see, the close combat doesn't really do anything, and the taunt is now also in play, so if you really want Thunder Wave, you can go for Thunder Wave. Really masterfully played there by Jose. That was just getting rid of the Landorus and the Tornadus. It's a threatening combo. What can I say? I mean, The Ogerpon, Wellspring, and the Fluttermane combined is just so scary, especially with Thunderwave. Like, it's just rough. I was gonna say I would have liked to play it out just to see maybe some information that you can get. That's why you always play out, even if you are at the end. Sometimes, yeah, you just want to forfeit, but in some situations, getting some extra information would really help. Like maybe how much Draco Meteor would have done, or Dragon Pulse would have done onto Amoonguss. You know, just some options, but it doesn't necessarily matter because the game was over, and maybe you just are like, I don't really want to play this out. It's fine, but some information could help. But yeah, Jose just nailed that lead of Ogerpon and Fluttermane. Is just, it's terrifying. And again, it's what I was saying earlier, is it's threatening to not have something to really threaten the Fluttermane right away. I mean, you do have Urshifu, but then again, you have Surging Strike's threat, and I personally think Ellie should lead next time with this Urshifu. I'm just looking at it. It hits so many things super effectively, especially with U-turn. But to not have something to help hit that Ogerpon as well is just really, really scary. Because it is a terrifying Pokemon. It deals so much damage, actually, after the Terra. And you don't have to invest too much into an attack stat. We're seeing Amoonguss and Urshifu. That is, in my opinion, the correct lead here for Ellie. And we're going to see Tornadus this time in place of the Fluttermane. Still leading with Ogerpon Wellspring, though. And so, yeah, it is a much better lead in my opinion. But there is something you've got to watch out for. This Landorus does have Substitute, and it could go right away for Substitute. Not much making it susceptible to that. I think that, honestly, the best play here would be to go for the U-turn out onto the Ogerpon slot, which is inevitably going to go for something. It's going to either Horn Leech, thinking that Urshifu is going to go for something similar. Could go for... Yeah, it could go for the Ivy Cudgel if you think you're going to go for a U-turn, but I think swapping into Tornadus is going to be really, really beneficial here. And I would also just go double up. Like, go for U-turn, go for Sludge Bomb, try to get rid of that Ogerpon, put the pressure on it to not Terra, because I think that was something that was really tough for Ellie on that side. And we are going to see that U-turn come on out, does about half. That's about average for Urshifu's. I think this Landorus, this is why they're running Substitute, because they have free reign on certain turns to just set up Substitute and not worry about Fake Out, not worry about Spore, not worry about really a lot of things. If we did see an attack, though, which we did not, obviously that would have been trouble, but Tornadus, very good switch in here. Because of course, he's going to take an Ivy Cudgel. And not even, because we saw it use Follow Me, which means that Ogerpon is just out of the game. Very, very solid position now for Ellie. There is still two major threats. The Arcanine especially, really good because it is super effective against the Tornadus and the Amoonguss. However, it does struggle against the two Pokemon Ellie has in back, the Landorus and the Urshifu Rapid Strike. So it is just... It is not necessarily the best, especially when you have the choice banned. You can only lock into one or the other. And you have to really think about your Terra now, because if you Terra the Arcanine to Grass, it does leave your Landorus susceptible to Surging Strikes, and there's nothing you can do about that. If you are not going to Terra it to Grass, if you do Terra it to Grass, I mean, then it leaves you susceptible to Bleak Wind Storm and Sludge Bomb. So it's like, you know, you're playing 50-50 calls on which one to go for. Amoonguss is going to go ahead and Protect. I think we're going to see a Scout on Protect here. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Bleak Wind come out as well. Arcanine goes for Rock Slide. Also gives us a clue that Arcanine is faster than Tornadus, so that is kind of massive. We do know it's going for Bleak Wind Storm here, but Landorus is going to couple it with Sludge Bomb into the Amoonguss. Good Protect on there on Ellie, because this Urshifu is going, or Tornadus is going to be able to go for a move right away, which is the Bleak Wind Storm. There's very little onto the Arcanine. I think the goal here is to get rid of the Landorus' Substitute, in which there was a successful attempt there. But now it's pretty solid because you do have the Spore potential. Obviously, if you go, I think it's fine to go for Tailwind. You kind of have to. You know, you can also just go right away for a Rain Dance and just boost some Surging Strikes here on the Urshifu. It's not necessarily a bad play either, since if you're looking in the back, you're like, okay, well, Raging Bolt would be the one thing I would really be scared of. I am actually surprised to see the Terra here, with knowing the threat in the back of the possible. I mean, Bleak Wind is no longer a threat, but Sludge Bomb is. I think it's to just dodge the Spore, and we are going to see Taunt on on the Landorus. That is very smart, preventing any possible substitute from coming out, which means you're guaranteed to get that spore on it. Unless, of course, you get Rock Slide flinched, and this is the Parrot flinch team, so it is very possible. And the Amoonguss, well, we're first going to see substitute isn't going to happen, and the spore comes out, but it comes out onto the Arcanine slot. I wouldn't say it's absolutely horrible, though. You are in a very, very solid position because you do have Urshifu in the mech, which is Choice Scarf. I think is going to go first. I think honestly, you just double up, right? Like, there's no downside to just going for the double up, especially with Rock Slide being locked on Arcanine. There is going to be a swap on the Arcanine slot. Once you reveal that Golden Go, it does give Ellie that massive information of, okay, well, now I know I don't have to worry about Raging Bolt. And if I do, I still have Landorus, right? So it's like, it's just a really good core. I think these four together on Ellie's side was the correct call. It's just, the order was a little different. Jose definitely on the back foot now. There is so much damage to be done by Terra Water Surging Strikes. That is absolutely going to knock out this Landorus in 2 hits, almost one. So massive boost there. A bit surprised though to see the Terra Water right away, to be honest. I guess maybe if you're expecting the Raging Bolt to come out, then yeah, but it does mean you're going to take neutral damage from Rock Slide instead of resisted damage, which is not necessarily great considering how much it did there. And the Amoonguss flinch, it's fine. It doesn't necessarily matter at the end of the day because Amoonguss will just have a Sludge Bomb. It still has 2 turns to do that. And the fact that now we see Golden Go means that the Urshifu is going to be able to do a lot of damage. A lot of damage, and it means you have to kind of lock in to Make It Rain, which is a resistant move. It will, when coupled with the Rock Slide, it will knock out. However, it is a little bit more mind-gamey. This would have been the turn I think the Terra would have been active here. Or would have been the better play, just to not take as much damage from the Rock Slide, but you still did. If you're Ellie, you're in a really good play. Surging Strikes, just Urshifu commanding this game as it has been commanding this format this entire time. It's going to do a decent amount. Based on my math, I think Golden Go's going to take it with about like 60% gone. Oh, way more than that. That's more like 80% gone. In the red, so just one more hit will do it. Ooh, critical hit on the Amoonguss is actually really important. Like, really important. Because... welcome to Pokemon. Make It Rain, it doesn't mean the Golden Go no longer a massive threat, but it means it is Landorus versus the world, and there is kind of a very important thing here with this Landorus. It is Terra Steel, even though we can see the Terra. A lot of Terra Landorus are Terra Steel at the moment. Terra Poison's also not bad, but regardless, with this Landorus, it's got 2 options, right? Use Sandsear and try and hit both, trip the Arcanine, knowing that you live 1 Rock Slide, or do you go for the knockout on the Arcanine right away, knowing that you could take a single Make It Rain and hope that Sludge Bomb at this range can KO? That is the question, and it is a question that is really hard to answer. I think I would have to click Sandsear. I wouldn't blame Ellie going for the Sludge Bomb, but I'd have to go Sandsear. Going for the Sludge Bomb, though. Is it enough to pick up the Arcanine? It is! It is! And it was not a critical hit. That is massive information. So now you are relying on a Make It Rain to critical hit this Landorus and get rid of it. Otherwise, we are going to game 3. There's that Make It Rain. Does not pick up the KO. And Landorus, we know outspeeds his Golden Go. So Ellie is able to take the free reign. There's the forfeit. That's a match where you can forfeit. It's over. There's no information to be gained. And with that, we are going into a game 3. Whew. Alrighty. Well fought battle on both sides. A bit surprised we didn't see the Flutter Mane on Jose's side, actually. I would have liked to see Flutter Mane because it did so well in the last match, but I understand why Jose left it out. There is a lot of threats to Flutter Mane, specifically the Amoonguss, because you can't really hit it super well, and of course the Urshifu Rapid Strike, because it can just go for Surging Strikes into it. There's definitely some consideration now from both sides on what do you bring in. I do think it's smart that it's interesting to me we haven't seen Raging Bolt. I get it, because close combat, you're Terra Electric, so you can't just Terra Fairy and resist it, right? If you're on Jose's Raging Bolt. You also have to deal with Landorus, and you have to deal with Chen Pao. So there's a lot of and you have to deal with Amoonguss. So it makes sense. However, it does make this Urshifu a lot more of a problem, especially because everything that you really want to hit it with, besides the Ogre Pawn, you can't really hit it with, right? Landorus is super awesome into Urshifu. However, because it's got the Choice Scarf and because it's got Surging Strikes, you can just hit really hard into the Landorus and knock it out before it goes down, before it's able to get its hit off. And the Arcanine, same kind of thing. You're locking into a move. It does resist Surging Strikes after a Terra, but your moves aren't super great into it. A Head Smash, Flare Blitz, you resist all of Arcanine's attacks except for Extreme Speed. So it's like, do you really want to lock into Extreme Speed? And we're going to see Ellie lead with Double Genie again. This time it's Tornadus and Landorus. Meanwhile, we're going to see Golden Go and Ogerpon lead for Jose. That's a very interesting lead. Because you do it is one of my favorite leads because you can just go instantly follow me plus make it rain, or nasty plot, so you can get your +2 make it rains off. However, and this is where it gets interesting, you got a Landorus. Yeah, you have a Landorus on the other side. Tailwind's very good. I think there is a decent call. You really need to play the mind games on Landorus, right? Because are you going to go for the Terra Steel and just dodge the Ivy Cudgel? Are you not going to do that and you're just going to protect and go for Tailwind? There's a lot at stake here, and we are going to see a Terra. I really wouldn't blame either side clicking their Terra button turn 1. And this Ogerpon Wellspring, I think Jose kind of picked up on the fact that that was a massive, massive weak point in Ellie's side. Was dealing with that on game 1, and so we're going to see that return. But Ellie here gonna also Terra. I believe this is going to be the Landorus, especially because you don't want to go down to an Ivy Cudgel here. You want that Landorus to survive, especially if we're seeing the Golden Go, because I think Tailwind and Earth Power with the Golden Go is a relatively safe play. You could also just Tailwind and go for the... Oh, we're not going to see Tailwind. We're going to see Bleak Wind. We are going to see Bleak Wind. But I was going to say, just to outspeed. And we know that this combo, I think, should go down to make a rain, but Jose taking the risk of just attacking with Golden Go, and Ellie sees that and is like, yeah, no, I'm not having that. Goes for the Earth Power, one-hit KOs that Golden Go, and we are going to see the Bleak Wind Storm, possible speed drop, and for single target +1 in special defense, that is not bad damage. And now this game becomes a little rougher because even with Flutter Mane here, you are gonna have instant Tailwind, right? And so this Landorus will outspeed all Flutter Manes and all Ogerpons under Tailwind. So I think it's just a nice little play there in the fact that you can't really take a ton of damage if you play your cards right? Going for the Tailwind, and I actually would not mind to see an Earth Power right into the Ogerpon slot here, just based on what I'm seeing in the back for Ellie's side with the Amoonguss and the Urshifu. It's not a bad play to just go for the attack on the Ogerpon, because if it goes for Spiky Shield, it's fine. If it goes, and if you see the Flutter Mane on Jose's side, go for any of the moves, Moonblast or Icy Wind, there's a very good chance it's not going to be able to pick up the KO on the Landorus. And if it doesn't pick up the KO on the Landorus, you're still in a very fantastic spot. And there is no Spiky Shield on this turn, so yeah, no protects at all, which means the Earth Power is just going to connect, but it's going to connect with the Flutter Mane, dealing about a third of the damage there. Moonblast gonna go ahead and hit that Tornadus, doesn't quite hit it at the halfway point. Ivy Cudgel now from Jose's Ogerpon, free to knock out whichever you need. That would be the Landorus. So it's not bad. It's still a little bit of a weird spot, I would say, for Ellie, because you do kind of have to lock on relatively quickly for what move you want, especially because you did burn your Terra, so you can't go for your Urshifu's attacks right now. You have to bring in Amoonguss, but it's not bad. Like, what can Amoonguss really get hit by? You resist the Ogerpon hits, you resist the both Flutter Mane's moves, and you can taunt the Flutter Mane before it does anything that can stop your Amoonguss, so you know you're not going to be taunted. So I don't really know what the best call would be here on who to Spore, but you basically get a free Spore. Flutter Mane gonna swap on out. Whatever this is, if it is a Landorus, which yeah it is, I mean that's really pretty solid if you could taunt into that slot and then Spore into the Ogerpon, because it means your Ogerpon isn't going to be able to knock out the Tornadus, and now you're free to Spore. They can't protect and they can't go for substitute. Ivy Cudgel I think is going to be able to knock out here the Tornadus, and it does pick up the knockout on Tornadus. But if you put Spore on Ogerpon, you're in very, 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 very good position. But it's the Spore on the Landorus. That is a little rougher. That is actually a lot rougher. Because you're basically now going for Rage Powder the whole game. It makes sense, but that's what you're at. You have to go for that Surging Strikes. It's just no use in going for close combat, because otherwise it's just Sludge Bomb against the Flutter Mane. I feel like there's too much against that, you know? So I think just going for Surging Strikes into the Landorus slot is the best, and then you've got to go for the Rage Powder to just make sure you don't get Horn Leashed. And after that, but the good news is, if you do that, you know, this Amoonguss, it is Rocky Helmet, so it's gonna take damage every time it clicks Horn Leech. So it's still, I'd say, I'd give Ellie the edge in terms of positioning, but it is, and there is that Surging Strikes lock-in, so yeah, that's the right play. It is definitely, I think, Ellie's, I'd say like 66% in Ellie's favor. Don't ask me where I got those odds, I made them up on the spot, but you have to click Ivy Cudgel or Horn Leech. We did not see... What is the stats on this Urshifu? It takes the Horn Leech full on, which means you get a free Spore, which is fantastic. And it also means that you are free to hit the... we saw Flaming switch out, so it is Landorus, which is full sleep powder, or like fully sleeping Landorus, which is fantastic. And you can go for Surging Strikes, like completely fairly right away. Question is, do you want to go for Surging Strikes, or do you want to double into the Ogerpon, knowing that both of these Pokemon have to take a necessary sleep turn right now? And knowing that you are faster than both guaranteed, like, what would you rather do? And yeah, I mean, knocking out the Landorus is fair. I mean, you just want to get rid of the more offensive piece here, considering Landorus can go for Earth Power, which is a lot more concerning than a double resist into the Amoonguss. It just is, it makes more sense. I think, and obviously we're going to see Sludge Bomb here, which we do get to see a little bit of like how much is this going to do into a +1 Ogerpon? It does 30. It's not great, but it's definitely winnable though, especially when coupled with the Surging Strikes. That's the key there. And you can Rage Powder now because it is Terra Watered, so you are free to just get those resists out and see what happens. What? Was that a misclick? That must have been a misclick. That must have been a misclick. Is it the second misclick we've seen today? I'm sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. It is still Amoonguss versus the world. I do think it's still Ellie's game in a decent position. I think you just gotta time your protects right, like that. Yeah, I think you just gotta keep clicking Spore. We're gonna see how much Ivy Cudgel does. This is gonna be kind of detrimental. That's crazy. That the Urshifu just, I think Sludge Bomb still does more. Yeah, I think Ellie still picks it up, but man, that was an interest. That was an interesting interaction with that Urshifu. Ogerpon going to take the necessary sleep turn, and we are going to see Sludge Bomb here. Unless maybe you just didn't want to get Horn Leeched, but like, I don't know why you wouldn't just follow me until that point. So, are we going to see another sleep? Yeah, we are going to see another sleep turn, and that means that we're going to see another Sludge Bomb as well. And I think it's going to take 2 more Sludge Bombs, which means I think I would go for Spore. I would go for Spore here. I think going for the Sludge Bomb. I mean, it makes sense. Doesn't quite pick up, but now this Ogerpon needs to hit a critical hit with an Ivy Cudgel and hope it's enough into a resistant Mon that is very physically bulky. I don't think it's gonna be enough. And with that, not even close. Okay, we're drastically overestimating how much Ivy Cudgel did. Ellie Homen takes the game, and round 4, I believe, that brings her to 3-1. So very, very good positioning to get into top cut today. And you know, oh man, what a game. I mean, that was the first really, really big back and forth we've seen. And I've been saying this all day, and I'm so happy to see it proved on stream. Double Genie is threatening. We saw it. It's such a good combo, especially when you have Taunt on Tornadus to just shut down the common team that we had just seen. Jose, though, played it really, really fantastic. Knew the out of that Water Pond, which was just Terra it, because there's not a lot that Ellie's team can do. Unfortunately, Spore was something that Ellie could do, but huge props to both players. I mean, they played incredible. It was a 2-1 showing, so it was back and forth, back and forth. One of the most entertaining games I've seen. And stick around because we got the last round of Swiss coming up. Dragonite, you good, buddy? Okay.